Your Honour, the the prosecution, I would like the right to cross-examine the witness. Bailiff, please arrest Mr. Cuthbert. I'm holding him in contempt of court. Wait! What? I see. Very well, then. It appears that Miss Steelwind has somehow predicted that this would happen. In accordance with her wishes, Mr. Cuthbert may act as the prosecutor in her stead. What the hell? You can't be serious. I'm honestly just as surprised as you are, Mr. Mora. But Miss Steelwind has apparently designated him as her stand-in. It's unorthodox, but it's also legal. So, what would you do if one of your clients was guilty? I suppose I'd withdraw and tell him to find another lawyer. And if no one else would represent them? I don't know. It would definitely be a hard choice for me. But I would never be able to represent them if I knew the truth. I just can't stand by and let a murderer escape justice. I see. Well, this isn't how I expected the trial to go. I guess we're already doing this. What's wrong? This feels weird. We're on the other side of the courtroom. I mean, this is where the prosecutor is supposed to stand. No, this feels way too jarring. Ruby, can we switch tables? What? Please ignore her. No, this is way too weird. Tyrion, get her to switch with us. Celeste, for the love of, I genuinely do not care. Cuthbert can have this side if he wants it so badly. With that out the way, let's resume proceedings. Assuming that we're all at our preferred spots. We are, Your Honour. With all of these interruptions, I think it best to review the proceedings up until now. The prosecution proposed that Beatrice Frega's motive for the murder was to claim the victim's inheritance. However, the defence brought forth a witness who testified that Beatrice was disinherited by her father 5 years ago. Am I correct, Mr. Mora? You are, Your Honour. Very well. Considering the circumstances, I think it's best to have Lady Frega repeat her testimony. Bailiff, please escort Miss Frega to the stand once more. Miss Frega, could you please give your testimony to the court once more? Of course. One day, we all woke up and discovered that Beatrice had fled from our home. She left a note for us, and in it she renounced her name and denounced my father. My father later called me and my sister into his study. He told us that he'd completely disowned Beatrice and removed any claim she had to the Frega estate. It was probably a threat to us in case we ever chose to go down the same path she did. He probably wanted to make an example out of her. This all happened 5 years ago. So your father disinherited Beatrice shortly after her departure? Yes, he did. As such, Beatrice would have no motive to murder her father. Any inheritance she could have received would be long gone by the night of the murder. Well, isn't this a weird situation we're in? Anyway. Let's see. These look pretty similar, don't they? Well, we've got some maps, we've got this, we've got that. I'm just looking back over everything that we have again. The wards, the shouting. The noises in the vents.
Objection!
The contradicting evidence. Miss Frega, it's clear that you're regretful of how your eldest sister was treated. That guilt must have eaten at you for all these years. Cuthbert, I know you don't have a good history with the witness, but you shouldn't rub salt in her wounds. I was merely pointing out the witness's personal connection to the defendant, Mr. Mora. She clearly regrets not standing up for her sister all those years ago, so perhaps she's trying to make up for that by lying to protect her. Excuse me, I did nothing of the sort. Miss Frega, you testified that your father disinherited Beatrice 5 years ago. However, I have testimony from another witness who spoke with the victim on the night of the murder. After Beatrice's meeting with William Frega, he openly declared that he would be removing her from his will. He even entered his study to draft a new will to reflect that decision. So that raises the following question. Why would the victim need to declare that he was disinheriting the defendant? It doesn't make sense if he had already disinherited her 5 years ago. Is that so? Well, who did you hear this from? It's clear that they had no understanding of my father's estate. They had no understanding? Miriam, this testimony came directly from your sister, Laffy Frega. But what? And she should have also been present during this alleged meeting 5 years ago. Well, she must be mistaken then.
Objection!
Your Honour, how can we trust second-hand testimony from a witness who isn't here? Wouldn't it make more sense to have Laffy give her testimony directly? I must agree with you, Mr. Mora. Laffy Frega should be allowed to clear up this misunderstanding. Bailiff, please escort Laffy Frega to the stand. Miss Frega, when we spoke earlier, you mentioned that your father decided to disinherit Beatrice. And he decided this after their meeting on the night of the murder. Is that correct? Yes, I did say that. You see, Laffy, Cuthbert doubts the testimony given by your younger sister. He seems to think she's committed perjury. But what? I wouldn't go as far as to say. Witness, lying under oath is a serious crime. It would have harsh consequences, even for someone of your sister's status. No, she couldn't have... Wonderful. Are you saying that you can corroborate your sister's testimony? Mr. Mora, you can't just intimidate the witness. I have no idea what you're talking about, Cuthbert. I'm just telling the witness what may or may not happen, depending on what she does next. The choice is ultimately hers. So, Laffy, assuming Miriam wasn't lying under oath, could you please testify to the court to confirm what your sister said? Yeah, of course. You see, Miriam was quite young when my father called us into his study 5 years ago. She didn't understand what he was really doing. My father would often lie to us. It was one of the many ways that he kept us in line. The encounter that Miriam described was just another one of his lies. Despite their disagreements, my father would never disinherit Beatrice without a good reason. He always held on to the possibility that she would become desperate enough to return home. The truth is that none of us knew what my father was planning for Frega's future. See, Cuthbert, the truth is much more complicated. No one could have really known what William Frega was planning for his estate.
Objection!
Not there, apparently. Well, let's see. Maybe let's press it instead. even after she renounced her name and denounced him. My father was always much more pragmatic than vengeful. I imagine that he expected her to fail on her own, and if she ever came back, she would be forced to rely on him. If he could make someone like Beatrice feel powerless, he could get the rest of us to fall into line. Looking back, I suppose that's all we ever were to him. Assets to be appraised and traded. Maybe let's try it here.
Objection!
Yep, that statement. Fine. Miss Frega, did you really have no idea about House Frega's future? No, I didn't. My father made sure of that. As I told you, he kept many secrets and wasn't above lying to manipulate us. But with Beatrice gone, you would have been the one to inherit your father's estate. Would you really be ignorant of your father's plans for House Frega? Unfortunately for you, I don't think you'd be that careless. In fact, I have it on good authority that you knew exactly how William's inheritance would be divided before that night. What? Laffy, according to Lloyd von Sanctus, you were arranged into a diplomatic marriage with his son. You expressed resistance to this arrangement, am I correct? I have no reason to comment on that matter. Cuthbert, the witness's personal matters are hardly any of our business. Yes, I must ask that you keep this discussion relevant to the case. Your Honour, Laffy's resistance to this marriage is exactly how I know that her testimony is false. She was extremely adverse to this marriage, and because of that she made sure to know every detail about how it would affect her and her house. And that includes how a House Frega would be inherited by her future husband. So that raises the question, Laffy. If you already knew the intricate details of this marriage, why would your father tell you that he was disinheriting your sister? That statement would only make sense if Beatrice was already in his will beforehand. That would render Miriam's testimony false and constitute a motive for the defendant.
Objection!
You present a decent argument, Cuthbert, but your claims rely on one assumption. And what assumption would that be, Mr. Mora? Even if he was lying, the victim declared that he was revoking Beatrice's inheritance. She must have already been named in the will previously, otherwise there would have been no need for him to say that. It wouldn't make any sense otherwise. And that's where your assumption is. You're assuming that William Frega was acting logically. What are you talking about? It's clear that William Frega was extremely controlling of his daughters. By your own admission, Laffy Frega was resistant to the marriage arranged by her father. In addition to that, Miriam Frega found herself wrapped in controversy regarding the Nightgrave trial a few months ago. And finally, to make matters worse, Beatrice Frega, the prodigal child, finally returned and made a public appearance during the Lord's Ball. What are you trying to insinuate? In his eyes, William Frega's ability to keep his daughters in line was clearly weakening. He must have gotten desperate and made a bland declaration in a feeble attempt to scare you, Laffy. Even if that declaration was clearly inconsistent. But he wouldn't. Your ability to remember must be muddled by the shock of your father's death. This statement couldn't possibly have been true. If by some chance it were true, that would make you guilty of perjury. Or perhaps it was Miriam that was lying in her testimony. If your father's statement were true, the court might be inclined to investigate her for lying on the stand. Miss Tamora, are you threatening her? As I said before, I'm merely stating the facts. The witness is free to act as she sees fit. I'm just asking her to consider the potential consequences of what she says next. I'm sorry, I need time to think. Please don't stare at me like that, Mr. Cuthbert. Wait a minute. No, wait!
Naught can remain concealed!
Well, let's see here. We have several bits of evidence related to this inheritance. As much as I hate to admit it, this trial is a perfect opportunity to back out of the arranged marriage. Von Sanctus's holdings are weakening by the day. I doubt I will be able to put up much resistance. And once Beatrice inherits the estate, we might be able to rebuild our family. And that's going to be the same thing. I need to make sure that I tell the truth without harming Miriam or Beatrice. Beatrice couldn't possibly have done this, and I'm sure Miriam also has her reasons. They couldn't rely on me back then, but they can now. What? Why am I thinking about this? Dunno. I'm just trying everything, really. How did both the swords find their way into Beatrice's room? Could Tracker have... No, Miss McCoy's sword is one thing, but he couldn't possibly have broken into the Howardson gallery. Though, he was extremely fixated on it. Tracker, eh? That's going to be the same thing, and that's just the other sword. I doubt the maps are going to do much of anything. Father, I know we had our differences, but I did love you, and I never wanted you to die. Beatrice, after all these years, you've finally returned. I can't believe that this is how things have ended up. If only I was as strong as you, I'd be able to endure this. Nothing there. Nothing to do with Steelwind. Why would Miriam say those things? Am I misremembering what happened? No, I would have remembered something like that. She must be trying to protect Beatrice. It's about the arranged marriage again. That's about that again. We try everything. I think I must have been through pretty much everything by now. This man, I thought Asta hired him to protect Beatrice. Is he betraying us, or is Beatrice actually... No, she can't be. I refuse to believe that she'd do something like this. Ruby Tamora. I've heard stories about her. I never expected Beatrice to hire someone like her. I wonder if she'll be at the will reading tomorrow. I believe you've had enough time for deliberation, Mr. Cuthbert. Are you able to prove the defendant's motive or not? I'm not, Your Honour. At least not yet. It's clear we won't get anywhere until we can confirm the state of William Frega's will. And we can easily confirm that tomorrow morning, when William Frega's will is read to his family. How did you... I see. Once his will is read, it will become public record. I suppose they have no choice but to suspend this trial until such time that William Frega's will is read.
Objection!
This is ludicrous. The case against my client is completely outrageous. We've spent the entire court proceedings arguing if her motive even exists. prosecution has very little evidence that physically implicates my client. Miss Tamura, you clearly don't believe that the defendant had anything to do with the murder. Of course I don't. She's completely innocent. Well, if your client didn't murder the victim, who did? We're pulling this again, are we? The shoe is on the other foot this time. You sneaky little... Your Honour, with no other suspects, are you in a position to pass a verdict? No, I am not. Mr. Cuthbert is correct. The court does not have enough information to pass a verdict. Until the Inquisition has time to investigate these new developments, I will be suspending today's trial. We will resume the trial tomorrow afternoon. Court is adjourned. Well, that happened. Sorry, I kind of acted without thinking. But out of everything that happened today, I can't believe that Steelwind somehow knew you would do that. Right. That is strange. Did she seriously predict what I'd do after that one conversation? Anyways, we have some time to ourselves. I'd very much like to catch up on some sleep. Yeah, today's been exhausting. For a lot of reasons. What the hell was that? Why is your son filling in for Arya? Listen, I have the situation under control. If that's true, I'd hate to see a situation you consider out of control. Eris, my father is not pleased with today's developments. He promised that the verdict would be passed before William Frega's will became public record. This has thrown quite the wrench into our plans. I understand. Cuthbert is just confused, but he's not a threat to us. We'd better hope you're right, Tamura. Or else your poor ward might suffer the same fate as Prosecutor Steelwind. What? House Frega is too important of a prize for us to let go. Bring us results, Tamura, or else we'll continue to take more drastic measures. Very much so, I expect. Thank you all for coming here today. As William Frega's close associate, I must express my deepest condolences for your loss. I think I speak for all Wyvern when I say... Enough, just get on with it. Very well, then. To get straight to the point, Lord Frega's will was magically sealed when it was given to me. He asked me, his executor, not to submit it to the courts for probate until after his death. Though I imagine none of us expected such a time to come so suddenly. Anyways, Lord Frega's assets included sole ownership of several banking houses throughout Wyvern, 10 million gold in various investments. 10 million? And lastly, sole control and ownership of the Frega noble house. I, William Frega, being of sound mind and body, do hereby declare this to be my last will and testament. I hereby give, devise, and bequeath all of my assets and property, both real and personal, to Jaden von Sanctus, provided that he enters into a legal and binding arrangement with my daughter Laffy Frega, within 6 months of the date of my death. What? That's... In the event that Jaden von Sanctus does not enter into such an arrangement within the specified time frame, my assets and property shall be distributed as such. All of House Frega will be divided equally among my children as per the laws of our kingdom. Isn't this great, Beatrice? You can lead House Frega now, just as it should have been. Actually, about that, in light of recent events, I believe I should clarify one thing. As per the Slayer rule, if Beatrice Frega is found guilty in the current court case, her inheritance will be revoked and divided between you and your sister. I see. That can't be all, can it? Surely William added a note of Laffy's obligation to marry my son. I'm not sure what you're trying to imply. Laffy Frega is an adult with legal autonomy. She's free to make whatever decision she wishes about who she legally marries. Now, if you'll excuse me. Wait, we're not finished yet. Come back here. I'd love to catch up with you, Laffy, but I was only allowed out of my cell to attend the reading. But don't worry, I'm sure once this understanding is resolved, we can talk all we want about our family's future. Of course. About what I did. Look, I'm not angry, Cuthbert. Oh. It was an extremely unforeseen situation, and a steel wind clearly put you on the spot. You felt pressure to do something and you made a rash decision. But I'm sure the court will understand if you withdraw. Wait, what? Cuthbert, you're not a prosecutor. You know that, right? Didn't you become an attorney to defend persecuted mages? But Beatrice is guilty. I saw it. I'm not going to argue about this again. You are going to withdraw. This is not up for discussion. I'm not going to do that, Miss Tamura. What? You said it yourself. Our court system needs a defense attorney and a prosecutor of equal power to keep things fair. That's not what I'm not going to withdraw. If you believe in Beatrice's innocence and you truly believe you're on the right side, then prove it by beating me. Fine. Do what you want, but you're only going to make things harder for everyone. Tyrion? Scaled Lord. That's the first time I've ever spoken to her like that. But you still did it. You stood your ground. Figuratively, I mean. Right now you're kind of just sitting on the floor. Yeah, I need to take a moment. Can we go back to the ballroom? Hello. You okay? Yeah, I just needed a moment. Anyway, the will reading brought us a few more hours to investigate the murder. We should take advantage of the new information we just learned. So, where should we start first? Right, yes. I do technically have command of him right now. This is weird, right? Yup. Awkwardness aside, I've never really led a task force before. What should Steelwind normally do in this situation? Well, she'd normally have us investigate areas of interest. Right. The context of the investigation tends to change after each round of court proceedings. Well, we're lacking a lot of physical evidence. Could you and the Inquisition search the gallery in Beatrice's room? Perhaps you can find evidence of how the Sword of Spell-Eating was stolen. Whatever you say, boss. That covers the Inquisition, but what are we going to do? It's clear that Lord Frega's inheritance plays a large role in this case. Even if it's not valid, we should take a look at the modified will that he was drafting. It might give us some insight about what he was really planning to do with his inheritance. Well. Well, wellty wellity well. Come on, where is it? Isn't it here? Where else would he put it? Miriam? Yeah, well, what? This is a crime scene. What are you doing here, Miriam? As if that's any of your business. Considering that I'm the prosecutor, it is very much my business. Don't suppose I can check these drawers myself. Nah. You appear to be looking for something, Miriam. What could be so important that you disturb an active crime scene? It's none of your concern. I'm merely trying to find something that belongs to me. Really? Because I have a feeling that we might be looking for the same thing. You're looking for the will that your father was drafting, aren't you? But that's... Were you trying to destroy it before we could get to it? No, of course not. I just needed to see it for myself. Why are you so determined to see the drafted will, Miss Frega? I just wanted to see what my father's final wishes were. But your father already had a will filed previously. Wouldn't that be enough? You also suspect something, don't you? Of course not. Beatrice would never do something like this. Miss Frega, I never even mentioned Beatrice. I know how things may look, but please understand, I'm just trying to get to the truth. I don't think your sister did this, but she may have been involved. She may have worked with someone else to orchestrate her father's death. Where is the will, Miriam? I need to see it. I don't know. I haven't been able to find it. I believe that's true. It should have been here, but I can't find it. He locked the door when he began drafting it. In addition to that, the Inquisition closed off the area after the body was discovered. It means that someone took it during the lockdown. It was probably stolen by whoever murdered him, right? Yeah, that would make the most sense. Which means that whoever did this wanted to nullify whatever was written on it. Anyway, looks like we won't be able to find the will. But the fact that it was taken must imply something. For now, we should follow our other leads. There's also the question of who committed the murder and how. Don't we already know the how? The murderer stole the Sword of Spell-Eating and used it to break into the study. That's true, but think about how they would have needed to move around the manor. The murder took place on the first floor within William Frega's study. But the gallery was on the second floor. They would have needed to go upstairs, steal the sword from the gallery, and then use it to nullify the lock on the study. Not only that, they would have needed to go back upstairs and plant the sword in Beatrice's room. About that, if someone conspired with Beatrice to do this, why would they plant the sword in her room? That's a good point. Perhaps they had a falling out. Her partner might have tried to betray her by putting the blame on her. But if that were true, wouldn't she just sell them out and make a deal with Steelwind? It would be because of the Slayer rule. Slayer rule? I remember the guy at the will reading also mentioned that. What is it? It was a law passed by the Crown centuries ago. According to that law, if someone is involved in another person's death, even accidentally, they will not be allowed to inherit the deceased's property. So, even if Beatrice wasn't directly responsible, she'd lose her cut of the inheritance if she took a plea deal. Miriam, it almost sounds like you suspect Beatrice as well. That's... Am I incorrect? I don't know what to think anymore. Miriam, did Beatrice threaten you in some way? What? Of course not. Her testimony yesterday was quite convenient for the defense. It almost got the whole case thrown out. And Laffy didn't seem to understand what was going on either. With the way she gave her testimony yesterday, it was almost like she was covering for you. Please, promise me that you won't tell anyone about this? I won't tell anyone. What happened? About an hour after the murder, I was approached by Ruby Tamora. She gave me a list of statements to give in my testimony. The statements weren't true, but she assured me that my status would protect me from any scrutiny. What? She had information that I tried to keep secret, and she threatened to make it public unless I cooperated with her. No. No, she would never do that. I'm telling the truth. But please, you can't tell Tamora that I told you. She'll ruin me. I've seen that woman do all kinds of shady shit in the cases I've worked. Forgery, bribery, blackmail, you name it. I'll bet you're just the same, a successor for the devil of defense attorneys. Hey, Tyrion, are you okay? We should check on Commander White. He might have found something. Okay. Just don't push yourself, okay? Yeah. Anyone in here? Yes. Who are you? You have a very large axe. And a Sephiroth-looking hairdo. Isora. You must be daft if you think I wouldn't notice your presence. Wait, How to get your arms chopped off in one easy step. Fregas. No, it's you two. What the hell was that? You could have killed him. You shouldn't have snuck up on me like that. I almost cleaved him in two. Tyrion didn't do anything wrong. Who the hell do you think you are? I am Lord Lucio Steelwind, Grand General of the Wyvern Guard military forces. Ah, I've heard a lot about you. Celeste, it's fine. I'm not hurt. Well, this should be interesting. I'm an attorney. What do you think about this? Completely inane. What else do you expect me to say? Uh-huh. McCoy, one might misinterpret that look of yours as murderous intent. Oh, guess you do have some battle instincts after all. I honestly wasn't sure, since you so obviously have a silver spoon stuck up your... Celeste. Such lack of respect and discipline. If you were one of my soldiers, I'd have you hung. If I was one of your soldiers, I'd hang myself. Okay, let's all try and stay civil here. Lord Steelwind, you were here at the Lord's Ball when the murder occurred, am I correct? I was. Do you mind if I ask you some questions? If that's okay with you. I suppose I must oblige, considering that my daughter so unceremoniously thrust her responsibilities onto you. Speaking of which, I'm sorry about what happened to your daughter. I'm sure you're very worried. It's her own fault for exerting herself despite her injuries. Even the bravest warrior knows when to stay off the battlefield. How can you say that? Your daughter was trying to do the right thing. By prosecuting the heiress of House Frega, she had very little evidence to substantiate her conviction. If she wanted to strike a blow on a rival house, she should have been certain that her enemy would fall. But now, if Beatrice Frega is found innocent, any hopes of an alliance between House Frega and House Derwent will be completely annihilated. Where were you throughout the night, Lord Steelwind? I so loathe gatherings like that. They're a complete waste of time. I was in this room, but then I received word that Lord Frega's lost heiress had made an unexpected appearance. She was supposedly speaking with the Crown Prince, so I made my way to the ballroom. Did you speak with them at any point? No, I kept my distance and stayed near the King's Guard. Was this because you were wary of Beatrice Frega? Yes, I was. The Crown Prince has always been a bleeding heart, and the Fregas are trained to sharpen their tongue from birth. I needed to make sure that she wouldn't try to interfere with his engagement. You were worried that she was going to try and take Asta back. I was, but it was clear that wasn't her intention. But you did overhear their conversation. What were they talking about? Their conversation was completely inane. It was all just small talk. Lady Frega spent most of her time playing with Prince Alarak. Bleh. Right. Mm-hmm. You went to the ballroom when you heard that Beatrice had returned. Was this before or after the lockdown? It was before the lockdown. And did you see her leave at any point? No, she spoke with the two princes for quite a while. She didn't leave their side until she was arrested for Lord Frega's murder. Thank you for answering our questions, Lord Steelwind. I'm merely repaying my daughter's debt to you. Anyway, we should probably go somewhere else. Let's move. McCoy. What? Your spell casting is undisciplined, but your battle stance and reflexes are commendable. You have my respect as a warrior. As if that means anything coming from you. What an undisciplined and defiant brat. Keep it in that corner. Don't let it get away. Get away from him! What is going on here? Aha! Wait, is that... What? Wait, Tyrion? Stay back, kid. It's a wild animal. There's no telling what it'll do. Don't worry, I'm not here to hurt you. Wait, you can understand me? Why are you talking to it? Tyrion, if you attempt to call this dog to the witness stand, I swear. I'm an attorney. Tracker, is that your name? How did you... Woof. Occupation, dog. Good occupation. He called you his queen. Do you know him, Laffy? Yes, but how? How are you talking to it? That's... I'm a dog whisperer. You've never mentioned that before. Do you honestly expect us to believe something like that? But Tracker says he can understand him. He told me himself. Wait, how do you know that? So, Laffy, how are you able to communicate with Tracker? I suppose there's no sense in hiding it anymore. Tracker is my familiar. Familiar? So it's the same magical bond Harold has with his monkey. That kind of throws a wrench in a couple of things that I was thinking. Have to kind of recalibrate what I think happened. Because this fact changes things slightly. You never mentioned him during questioning. It wasn't relevant to the investigation. I've been keeping him a secret from my family. I suppose that makes sense. I doubt William Frega will have allowed you to keep an animal in his home. Well, I don't appreciate you keeping this info from us. But it doesn't look like anyone got hurt. And aside from this dog, we haven't really found anything new. Tracker, I saw you on the night of the murder. But what? Tracker! Ruh-roh. He's supposed to stay in this room. Wait, is that why you wouldn't allow the servants to enter? I didn't want to keep him in Beatrice's room, but he was very insistent that he stay here. Tracker likes the ambience. Right. Wait, if you live in this room, did you see who brought the spell of the sword of the sword of spell eating here? The spell of sword eating. It's a spell that allows one to eat swords. Like those people at the circuses. I already asked him about that, but he didn't see anyone. He must have been taking a nap. Either that, or he was roaming outside, even though I told him to stay here. Damn it. Tracker see a lot of other things, though. Tracker see many new people that night. Can you tell us what you saw on the night of the murder, Tracker? Tracker see rats. No, this could be useful information. I'd need you to be more specific. Can you go in order? Tell me about everyone that you saw that night. Okay. Tracker was taking a nap in room, but Tracker woke up from loud sounds outside. Tracker hears small things running in the walls. Running in the walls? Tracker called Queen, but she didn't answer, so Tracker decided to check sound alone. Tracker follows sound outside. That's when Tracker smelled the bad smell. Bad smell? That's when Tracker smelled flying rat. You smelled a flying rat? Do you mean like a pigeon? Tracker could smell where Rat was, so Tracker balked at him. Tracker must have scared Rat because he fell onto the floor and dropped his stick. The rat had a stick. Tracker could see them now, so Tracker did one final balk to scare them off. The rats were scared and went back into the walls. They went into the walls? That's when Tracker picked up the stick Rat dropped. Queen finally answered Tracker. She told him to go back to his room and hide. After message, Tracker brings stick back to room for inspection. Do you remember what time this encounter happened? What is time? Well, that's a fantastic question. But we really haven't got the time to go into that right now. What did he say, Tyrion? Did he see anything? Let's see. The servants were complaining about rats running through the air vents, so they sent me to take care of it. I heard one of them running in the vents upstairs, and I followed it here. I figured it had nowhere else to go, so I opened it up and put a trap down. Let's see. Ah, yes, this would make sense. Oh, that does raise another question. Tracker, why did you refer to the rat as flying? Because rats don't usually jump and fly. Yes, I got that. Is it possible that what you saw wasn't really a rat? Rats are rats. They're small things that run and hide. Ah. Tracker, about that stick you found. Where did you put it after you came back to this room? Tracker, hide stick in safe space, under the bed. And this stick, did it look like the sword that my friend is carrying? What? Hey, your friend stole my other stick. Wait, your other stick? Yeah, Tracker found it while he was hiding from the metal men. Wait, are you the one who stole Celeste's sword? Tracker! Did Tracker do a bad? It's as I suspected. Tracker was the one that brought the Sword of Spell Eating here. What? I have no idea how or why, but the Sword of Spell Eating was lying in a hallway somewhere. Tracker found it and brought it back to Beatrice's room. His room. That can't be. So the person who framed Beatrice for the theft was... Leffe, do you mind if I borrow Tracker for a little bit? It's okay, Queen. He smelled good. Tracker, trust him. Thanks, I guess. Okay, but only if you allow me to accompany you. Alright, Tracker. Can you take us to the hallway where you found these rats? Sure thing, King. A promotion! Aha. Tracker? What's wrong? Enemy. Oh? Oh dear. Tracker, stop that! I'm terribly sorry. He's not usually like this. It's to be expected. I'm not sure why, but animals have always been able to see me for what I... Animals have always disliked me. What are you doing here, Eris? I should be asking you the same thing. I recall you telling me that you're a defense attorney. Yet here you are, prosecuting a defendant. You're even leading the Inquisition that you supposedly hate so much. But to answer your question, I'm here on behalf of Beatrice. My sister? Yeah, Tamora is occupied handling other aspects of the case, so she sent me here to investigate on her behalf. What? She would have to trust you a lot to get you to let you handle something like this. How do you two even know each other? You said she was acquainted with your father, but... we met during her days at the Imperial Academy. We both studied illusion magic together. I have always been a patron of hers. It saddens me to see her in this dreadful situation. Uh-huh. These crystals supposedly generated an anti-magic field during the lockdown. However, the sort of spell eating would make its wielder immune to these fields. There's an air vent over there. It appears to go from the ceiling to the ground floor. Is this where that rat escaped to, Tracker? That's where the jumping rat went. I thought you said it was a flying rat. Tracker see that too. Anyways, where did this rat come from? Rat coming out the other wall. You mean the vent on the opposite side? Yes, Tracker saw a flying rat escape that way.
Repario Arcanum!
Uh-huh. What? What do you see? The vents have traces of illusion magic inside them. What? The traces also go deep inside these vents. It's the same for the vents on the other side, too. Why would there be traces of illusion magic inside the vents? What spell could have possibly left those traces? As I told you many months ago, illusion spells tend to do one of two things. They either create freestanding illusions, or they can disguise an existing creature. I doubt someone created a small, freestanding illusion in the vents. So a disguised creature must have been inside these vents at some point. But these vents are tiny. No one will be able to fit inside them. Tracker could see them now, so Tracker did one final walk to scare them off. The rats were scared and went back into the walls. But a rat would be able to fit in these vents. Well, yeah, I guess that would be true. But that would mean that rat had an illusion spell active on it at the time. Not only that... Tracker saw this rat during the lockdown. They would have been inside the anti-magic field created by the lockdown. There can only be one way that rat could have an illusion spell active on it. Wait, you can't mean... that rat was holding the sword of spell eating. Dog testimony. What? But how is that possible? A rat wouldn't have the strength or hands to carry the sword. Tracker's vocabulary is primitive and limited. He uses the word rat to describe small creatures that hide and act suspiciously. But even if it wasn't an actual rat, it still couldn't have been a human, right? You're right. It would have been a small animal of some kind. A small animal with the strength and dexterity to traverse a small air vent while holding a sword. Sorry, but I really have to ask, is that a monkey riding on your back? Yes, this is my familiar, Eugene. No, are you serious? We know Harold had a motive to kill William Frega. He was planning to defund the Haroldson Hall of History, and all of its alliterativeness. They had an argument that night, and that's when William Frega decided that he was going to defund Harold's museums. He must have struck a deal with Beatrice, and with Beatrice's portion of House Frega, she could have easily kept his museums funded. He could have faked the robbery and sent his familiar to murder William. I can't believe this. There's something else that Tracker said. Tracker could smell where Rat was, so Tracker balked at him. Tracker must have scared Rat because he fell onto the floor and dropped his stick. The rat had a stick. Tracker, you said that you had to spell to see where the rat was. And when he dropped his stick, you were finally able to see him. Does this mean you couldn't visually see him before he fell down? Yeah, Tracker couldn't see the rat with his eyes, so Tracker used his nose to see it. The monkey was invisible. No one would have noticed a small invisible animal. In addition to that, he moved through the air vents. Eugene would have been nearly undetectable that night. Beatrice is a master of illusion magic, but it's possible that she cast invisibility on Eugene. Invisibility. Clap both hands together. Oh, really? One of the highest forms of illusion magic, the spell makes the target creature or object completely invisible. While invisible, the target will be completely transparent and undetectable visibly. If targeting a creature, the spell will also affect anything that the creature is wearing or holding. And then there's the position of this air vent. We're currently in the hallway just north of Beatrice's room, and this air vent connects to the ground floor. If we align the two floor maps together, this vent must lead to the storage room. Right, the air vent there curved upwards. This must be where it goes. But according to Jan, the air vent led directly to William's study. It would have been the perfect route to enter William's study and leave undetected. But he wouldn't have needed to nullify the lock to enter that room. Why would he need to use the Sword of Spell-Eating at all? Because of familial bond, they can telepathically communicate with each other. Harold probably needed Eugene to hold the sword so he could tell him exactly where to go. The sword's magic affects anyone magically connected to the wielder, and familial bond connects them magically. It all makes sense now. Harold could easily have faked the robbery to take suspicion off of him. It's even possible that he was lying about how the display glass was shattered. But I've known Lord Haroldson for many years. I can't believe that he'd be involved in this. And Beatrice, there's no way she'd participate in a plan like this. Look, Laffy, I know you don't want to suspect your sister, but it's not that. Beatrice would never trust anyone enough to work together like this. But she's completely blind, she wouldn't have much of a choice. Even so, she's not the type of person to trust her accomplice to stay quiet. She'd find a way to carry out a plan herself, and she'd only employ someone else's help if she had full control of them. Anyways, we're finished here, aren't we? Yes. Thank you for lending Tracker to us, Laffy. I only want to help you find out what really happened. Don't make me regret trusting you, Mr. Cuthbert. If you're truly on the side of justice, then you won't. Good. Now, if you'll excuse me. So that's it, right? We finally know who really committed the murder, then. Anyway, this is definitely the lead that we've been looking for. But is it really enough? We still don't have any physical evidence. It'll have to do for now. We're running out of time. We'll just have to call Harold to the stand to testify about what he did that night. If I can push him far enough, I might be able to catch him lying. Plus, we've got to get him there in the first place. I already gave my statement to the Inquisition. Is my testimony really necessary? Sorry, odd-timer. The orders came straight from the prosecutor. We're going to need you on the stand today. I understand. I'll do what I can to help. Well, I guess yes, we do have the authority at the moment to just order him onto the stand.